Hey, what's up, everybody? Hope you guys are well. Wanted to chime in quickly as I wrote some stuff down here and I'm thinking of how I can configure in my mind to think of symbolic truth. And I guess another way I'm thinking about this is how can we understand that truth is a person and Christ is the truth, the way, the light. And it's related to this idea of symbolic truth, at least in my mind right now, as I'm trying to think through this. So I'm going to read a little bit what I wrote here, and I'm going to riff a bit as well. So Christ is the human expression of the fundamental pattern of reality. The root word of pattern is father, patera in Greek. So the world, the cosmos, being, is formed, functions, and expresses itself in patterns, fractal patterns. These fractal patterns make up the structure of reality from the subatomic through the human to the cosmic or the universal. As humans, we observe and perceive the world from whence we occur, somewhere in the midst of the pattern. With our tools and our minds, we participate in the breaking apart and building up of the spaces we find ourselves in. This is at least partly what we experience as time. With our scientific instruments, we extend our capacity to perceive both the very small and the very large. At every level, without exception, we see two forces at play, multiplicity and unity. Or put another way, we find parts ordered into wholes and wholes or structures configured by their parts. Atoms form molecules, form cells, form organisms, communities, cities, nations, worlds, galaxies, and so on. What does this have to do with Christ? And how can we think of Christ's story as informing this process of creation? So the narrative of Christ's death, descent into Hades, and resurrection is the human story of creation and participation in the cosmic meta-story. So we can think of Christ as the force that appropriately mediates unity and multiplicity, identity and difference. So Christ resolves yet preserves difference in the formation of identity at every level of being, again from the subatomic to the cosmic. So that's all I had written down here, and how I'm trying to think of this as symbolic truth, right? Symbolism is the coming together of two levels of reality in a way which resolves but preserves difference in the formation of unity, right? So things can come together, things that are differentiated can come together. But what is it that forms the unity that creates something that prior to was not created, right? To create something new. So truth, symbolic truth, is you can discern what truth is through this fractal patterning and observe whether or not the item, concept, idea in question is true in a more fundamental sense than scientific truth. I think scientific truth is a species of this kind of broader idea of truth. I think this broader idea of truth is more akin to the logos, right? The logos is you can think of it as the fundamental organizing principle of reality. Now, if we can think about this in terms of the biblical narrative of in the beginning was the Word, the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, and the Logos was God. So the Logos is God, and the Logos through Christ was made manifest as a person. And this person taught and provided information that, if followed on the human level, will create unity in terms of human relations and civilization, which is a very profound thing to think about. And it's even more profound to think that this maps on to a more conventional scientific understanding of truth, where we can think of it as where theory meets practice, or where hypothesis is confirmed by the experiment. Right? So scientists intuit and use this more fundamental form of truth, but they do it in a materialist sense. And I think if we can somehow think through and incorporate this broader conceptualization of truth, we can reincorporate and reconfigure science in this more fundamental way. I think a lot of it has to do with love, unconditional love, right? And how can we think of love in terms of this forming, structuring, and expressing function of the Logos, right? And in terms of the Christian edict to love God with all your heart and love your neighbor as yourself, and the more profound one is to love your enemies, right? And it goes back to this idea of othering, of outgrouping a person or a people, which is essentially the history of human civilization and human relations. You can see it in the current flavor in woke ideology, which expresses itself to champion diversity, equity, and inclusion. But in its very expression, it doesn't include the majority, in a sense. It doesn't include that which it subconsciously creates as other in enacting this ideology, in a sense. So I think the important thing to ascertain here is that there is truth in the world. There is reality exists. And this doesn't have to be some kind of hippie idea that is contemplated when one has taken too many bong rips. You can really be discerning and rigorous in thinking of truth in this way. And if we think of truth in the appropriate way, that is what freedom is, right? The truth shall set you free. And to be free is to be rectified, to be ordered, to be salient, to be free to express in a way that is constrained by love for God and your neighbor. So just a quick chime in here. I know there was a lot there, but I'm still thinking through this, but I wanted to kind of just put it out there to see if anybody had anything to add or any thoughts here. So yeah, guys, thanks.